Hey there, Fred Gleeck here talking about dynamic equity as usual. And I get a lot of questions from people asking me, when you enter into an equity deal, what should you put in place? And the answer is you should always have a written agreement. But then the question becomes, what elements must you include in that agreement? So I wanted to go over a few of those with you, not all of them necessarily, but a few of them, and I'm just going to take them at random. First thing is the divorce clause. And by that, I mean, in the event that you enter into an agreement with someone, clause, I can't spell. If you enter into an agreement, we all like to think that it'll go on forever, which it's intended to as a dynamic equity agreement. However, we all know that things can happen between partners that make it impossible to keep going on. So you want to make sure and put in there some way of ending, abrogating, completing, whatever you want to call it, the agreement, so that you no longer have to continue. That being the case, I think that it's imperative that you understand the need for this, because without that, you really are leaving out an essential component of any equity agreement. So if you're entering into an equity agreement, you've got to have some provisions for what this entails. In my case, I always put in there something that has a time element to it, which is, so have you been in that agreement for more than X amount of time, X amount of months or years? And therefore, what will happen in the event that you decide to end the marriage, the partnership at that point? And so make sure and put that in as part of it as well. The other thing is partner roles. We can talk more about this in a separate video, but partner roles, it's important that you put down in writing who is going to be doing what, or whom. I forget which is it anyway. Whom or who should be doing what and where. So in my case, the one thing that I always put in there is I don't do accounting. I don't do that, meaning to say, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why. Number one, I'm not good at it. And the other reason is because I don't enjoy it. It's not my thing. The other important element of not doing the accounting is that I want to make the partner that I'm working with feel as if I can't take advantage of them financially in any manner, shape, or form, because I'm not collecting the money. They collect the money and send me my piece monthly based on, our agreement as it relates to the dollars. So partner roles are important. A divorce clause is important. It's also important to make sure and outline very, very clearly what is the mission. In other words, what are you trying to do exactly? Because in many cases, I've worked with partners in which I thought we were on the same page, but in actuality, we were not. For example, worked with someone recently who was a partner for a while that had to end because both of us had a very different idea of of where we're going, which is my mission was clearly in my mind as the maximization of revenue in an ethical fashion. However, this particular individual didn't think that way. Their ideas were based on something completely different, which, if you think about it, if you're not in agreement on something as important as the mission itself, then you're in big trouble. Those are three of the items that I think you want to make sure are in any agreement that you put together. The next obvious one, which it's almost, inconsequential, or it's kind of stupid even to have to mention it, which is, what is the split? What's the split in terms of money? So how is that done? And in my case, I like to make sure, and I would encourage you to do the same, which is any split that you do is based on the net. Based on net, N-E-T, not the gross. Because you want to make sure that the money that you split among you and your partner is after expenses. Now, in my case, the other thing that you want to talk about, and I always do this as well, is to make sure that my partners, and this is where they have a financial commitment, is all of the expenses are put on their credit card, and they create the P&L using their accounting system, which of course I look at and, agree to, but they put the expenses on their credit card. I'm giving, at least in the beginning stages, I'm giving my time. They're putting up their money. But remember, if, say, for example, like in the case of one of my longest term partners, at the very beginning of our relationship, he put up $15,000 for SEO services. Now, what ended up happening is that $15,000 then was sort of put in a spreadsheet, a P&L, in which he had to be paid back first on those monies before we did any of our splits. So the money that he was putting up was similar to me putting up my time. So these are a few things. So again, the starting dollars became an element that had to be paid off first. And you can also make sure and include this in your agreement that any dollars paid by you or your partner must be paid first before any revenue splits occur on the net and not the gross. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, please ask them below. I'm excited to see what you think of that and what your thoughts are because I'm always happy to help. Thanks.